Hello again, it's me. Just a quick update on the Mr Brown video, Pete McCarry, the hijacker. I thought I'd look up a few things because I forget a lot, and I made some notes, and I completely forgot to say in the last video that once he got the money and he'd made good his escape, he phoned them up and he said there's no bomb on the plane, it's quite safe to land. And I said to him, why didn't you put a bomb on the plane? And he said, because I would never want to hurt anybody. Which, on reflection, and also thinking about all that concrete in his boat, well, maybe it was to stop the boat from floating away. Or maybe there was another reason for all that concrete. He was actually talking about building a concrete swimming pool in the mooring next to him. He said that'll really piss the council off. He was crazy about concrete, actually. Looking back on it, he was always going about concrete. Now, it was that the movie is not Qantas and Me, it's called Call Me Mr Brown, I think. Call Me Mr Brown, and I will do a community post. There's a fantastic old vintage news reel of the whole story, so you can see the pilots and how they reacted to it, and the passengers. But the passengers didn't know anything about it. They just thought it was a technical problem. The pilots were never told it was a bomb, but they deduced it had to be something like that. Oh, and I forgot to look up the Garrard's robbery. Yeah, look that one up. That would have been about early 2000s. That was when I was on a run. And it was 35,000 feet. He told them they couldn't bring the plane down any lower than 35,000 feet. And what else was there? Oh, and the money. They claim $500,000. Well, I believe Pete. It was closer to 4 million. And I remember my dad, when they did the film about the great train robbers, and they sort of said that they'd always claimed it was a lot less money that they'd taken than they actually had. My dad said, oh, everybody knew, that they just lie about why can't they tell us the truth on the news, really? It was not $500,000. I believe Pete, it was millions, and this is the 1970s. And goodness knows what happened to the money. I think he hid the money in lots of different places, and he must have had some of that money to buy the fish and chip shop. He must have had some of that money to fix up his boat. Someone asked was it a narrow boat? No, it wasn't. It was a large motor cruiser, quite fancy. Probably would have been a sort of 1970s boat. Big, much bigger than my boat. Much bigger. And he was amazing because he was into electrics and stuff. He'd done all the ceilings in like opaque plastic squares, and he had coloured lights behind them, and he could have the cabins any colour he wanted, and then he could have it like disco lights, and it was amazing. And he had a waterbed in his living room with big sorts of sofas built around it, and he had a huge TV, and we're talking the early 90s where there were no, well, I don't know, did we have flat screens then? We had this enormous TV and a huge video collection. He'd cook us egg and chips and stuff because he knew we were starving, and we'd sit on the bed and watch TV like a couple of kids. And he had a spiral staircase at the front, and then down in the lower cabin he had, it was either a pool table or I think it might have been a snooker table, and all the room was lined with fruit machines that you could play for free all day long, as you liked. Yeah, he was the right character, Pete. He was fascinating. And I think that's everything. I haven't looked up the Garrard's robbery. I'll have to look up that one again, because I just have the sensation. And talking of the great train robbers, I never met any of them. But my gran and my great auntie Helena, they used to work with June Edwards, you know, Buster Edwards' missus, in Hove. And they both said she was absolutely beautiful, really stunning. And when the film came out with Julie Walters, my gran said, that's nothing like June. June was a stunner, an absolute stunner. And they knew her quite well, and they said she was a lovely girl, very lovely. So I think that's all of it. So yeah, I'll put the community post with the vintage newsreel, and if you're looking for the film, it's not called Qantas and Me. I had that stuck in my head because I think Pete told me that. And he said, oh, they made some bloody movie, I don't know. He never watched it. He wasn't interested. Isn't that strange? But I think it's called Call Me Mr Brown. Okay, so there's a few more details on Pete McCarry.